Summary of Reclaiming Conversation by Sherry Turkle. Thanks for exploring this super summary plot summary of Reclaiming Conversation by Sherry Turkle. A contemporary alternative to SparkNotes and Cliff's Notes, Super Summary offers high-quality study guides that feature detailed chapter summaries and analysis of major themes, characters, quotes, and essay topics. Reclaiming Conversation may be a 2015 self-help book by American author Sherry Turkle that specialize in the arrival of digital devices that draw our attention far away from interpersonal situations. Turkle contends that we must strive to recover the lost art of authentic conversation. She connects conversation to positive human qualities and virtues, including empathy, love, and focused awareness, proposing practical actions readers can fancy train these essential features of communication. She also puts forward a critique of the digital age at large, showing that increased connection through mediating technologies ironically divides and alienates certain parts folks. The book has been lauded for identifying many key problems with the technologies modern societies deem granted, debunking the notion that unbridled technological advancement is necessarily good. Turkle opens with the overall claim that technology has changed civilization dramatically, for better and for worse. The main reason that technology isn't unilaterally good, in her view, is that it stunts our human need for conversation. Begetting loneliness and anxiety, this deficiency dampens our ability to place ourselves in others' shoes. She argues that one among the good challenges of the digital age are going to be deciding the way to get our conversational abilities back. Turkle's first supporting argument for her claim about our diminished conversational abilities is that digital media simply cannot substitute for real, in-person conversation. Humans require authentic, face-to-face connections to know and relate to every other. Data communication doesn't provide the vulnerability and real-time responsiveness required for key social abilities to manifest. She cites many studies that demonstrate that cell phones diminish conversations' topical depth, length, and corresponding feelings of closeness, empathy, and trust. Studies have even found that the presence of muted cell phones substantively impairs how people communicate, usually steering speech content into superficial directions. Conversely, studies comparing different interaction styles have found that face-to-face interaction is strongly correlated with stronger emotional bonds. Turkle asserts that times of reflection and solitude are vital, but neglected components of human well-being. The most reason for his or her erasure from modern life has been the proliferation of devices that bring endless streams of media before our eyes on demand. Moreover, she makes a key distinction between real solitude, which consists of a meditative state or focused awareness, and therefore the time we spend alone consuming media from digital devices. Developmental psychologists have found that our deepest thoughts, the thoughts that make us ourselves, only occur once we are completely undistracted. Where loneliness divides and distracts us, true solitude activates parts of our brain that translate experience and emotion into our core identities. Turkle suggests that the disintegration we feel in modern life is thanks to our confusing loneliness as solitude. To help nurture solitude in young, developing minds, Turkle presents an important for folks to urge off their own phones to attend to their kids. She argues that how parents communicate with their children is one among the foremost foundational parts of childhood development. Childhood presents a critical window for learning to speak closely and for developing empathy. Studies show that when parents ignore their children, they have a tendency to get older to be less empathetic. Turkle also cites studies that appear to undermine the utility of digital intimacy solutions, like dating apps. In one study, one group was allowed to settle on from a huge array of chocolates, another was allowed to settle on from a way more restricted range. The participants who chose from the restricted set perceived the chocolates as more satisfying. The vast space of choices, whether for a sexual partner or a computer game, that phones now present us with, diminish our capacity to savor and remember our experiences. She suggests that virtual environments are generally blameworthy, because they're conducive to attention scattering and superficial communication. Turkle concludes by suggesting that only by looking beyond the fad of digital media can we see what our society is basically craving. She recommends that her readers make sacred spaces in their lives where they nurture interpersonal connection and completely exclude their devices. She suggests, also, that a conversation renaissance might help the state of political discourse within the U.S. by freeing up people's attention to speak about the problems that directly affect them. Reclaiming Conversation may be a hopeful book, outlining how we will teach ourselves to show far away from technology to embrace the critical features of being human. Conversations matter. Conversation is on the trail toward the experience of intimacy, community, and communion. Reclaiming conversation may be a step toward reclaiming our most fundamental human values. Our devices are creating a world during which true conversation is rare. Conversation requires undivided attention to a different person or group of individuals, staying engaged when things get a touch boring and slogging through the unknown and uncomfortable. Conversations include both being heard and listening. They require full presence. We learn to converse as children both by learning to be alone and by learning to be together. We learn through quiet, unhurried time with our parents when they're with us fully. Our devices are changing our relationship to conversation. They encourage distraction when even slightly bored, we attend the device. We are available and out of the conversation. Parents check emails when we're with their babies, meaning that they are doing not get our undivided attention, and perhaps not tons of our eye contact. Young adults learn to text instead of speak, meaning that their conversation is mediated. They create their personas carefully and take far less risk. Conversations are powerful. We create new thinking through conversation, build things that are bigger than anybody folks alone, create deep and abiding connections, become happier. Through conversation we understand people, developing the capacity for true empathy. Studies show a precipitous decline within the capacity for empathy among the generation that's being raised with smartphones. We are losing the power to steer in another person's shoes because we aren't talking. Learn to be alone and together. One of the foremost powerful claims made by Turkle is that in solitude we discover ourselves, and that the capacity to be alone is critical to the capacity to be together. It's also critical to the capacity to be creative and productive. The degree to which we've lost that capacity is alarming. In moments of quiet we address our phones. We don't allow ourselves to urge bored. We are always connecting, always on. Finding alone time, embracing solitude may be a critical initiative in reclaiming conversation. Turkle posits that the increasing interest in mindfulness meditation may be a response to this, a recognition that we'd like to find out to turn off. She suggests that there are other ways to be alone as well, and it's critical that we develop and/or reclaim that capacity in ourselves. Be intentional about technology and conversation. The world's largest call provider, employed by 85% of Fortune 100 firms, studied what people do during meetings. 65% do other work, 63% send email, 55% eat or make food, 47% go the toilet, and 6% take another call. By being honest about our vulnerability to the decision of our phones and other devices, we can begin to style our lives and our workplaces to support meaningful conversation. While this is often easier in physical workspaces, no-device meetings, planned social time and spaces, active mentorship programs supported face-to-face meetings, we also got to find ways to figure virtually together in ways in which promote true connection. Remember the facility of your phone. It's not an adjunct. It's a psychologically potent device that changes not just what you're doing, but who you are. Few books I've read in recent years have left me so uncomfortable then committed to doing things differently. Turkle has forced me to be honest with myself about my very own device habits, and to note my almost grown children's habits and ask them to note also.
Did you like this audiobook summary? Click the like button now to support our channel and click subscribe if you want to get notified each time we post a new free audiobook summary on YouTube.